think I'm seeing more days on market is because sellers are just keep pushing the price points up even further than they should be. And that's what I'm even having an issue with my listings right now. I've have a couple listings where they're just being completely unreasonable or.
So let me get this straight, Steph. So you list it at a price and then they're telling you a week or two later to raise the price?
No. Like when I go into a listing appointment, I go in and because I also want to get a feel of what they're looking for first before I even kind of give them my comp. So I say, okay, well, what are you looking to get? Yeah. And they'll tell me their number and it's like an outrageous number. Or these homes that I'm seeing are sitting on market are because they're already ridiculously overpriced. So that's like kind of in progress.
Hold on, I got this one up instead. So let's talk about those two scenarios because I think they're important, and I also think that it's critical to understand the whole concept of I'm coming in second, right? I'm the second listing agent. There's that side of it, and then there's the other side of do you even want to be first if it's a ridiculous price? And for the past year and a half, I would say being first at a ridiculous price is okay, but what the environment we're heading into right now, I don't know if I take that on. And when in a normal environment, the only way I took that on, because here's the other side of it. People will eat you alive in terms of your mental health. And when you take a listing that's, is not going to sell or has a very small chance to sell at that price, when you have unrealistic pricing consumers that are sellers, you also have unrealistic consumer sellers that want you to do unrealistic things. Meaning, well, did you tell, you have a showing. Well, did you tell them this? Did you tell them that? They tend to be the ones that bother you more. They tend to be the ones that ride you a little bit harder. And for me, what I found is that I'd rather have my mental clarity of knowing that I don't got to call this asshole back at 7 o'clock tonight and have a half-hour discussion about why the person that came at 9 a.m. is not going to buy their home because they're just simply not interested in your home. The only time I took on that mental state of mind was if I was in a really good area that I could do a really good open house in, or a home that would bring buyer traffic to me. And even then, I sometimes hesitated. Then I would take the notion of taking it away from them. And so it's amazing how when you tell a seller, look, I'd love to work with you. I think we'd work really well together, but I unfortunately can't spend the time, money, and effort at this price because I know we won't get it. And I don't want to disappoint you. And I also have to make sure that I'm doing right by you. And I would take it away. And what would happen is that night or the next day, I would get a call from that person, probably 60, 70% of the time, that said, okay, we're going to go with what you said. And it's simply because I took it away from them. Because if you're telling me that you're not even going to list my home at that price, that's telling me something's wrong. Now, the ones that decided not to move forward, I added a piece to the end of that statement at the listing appointment. And what that one was, look, and if you talk to another agent and they tell you they can get the price, I encourage you to list with them. But if you find yourself in the next 30 to 60 days to where you're not getting offers, because we're in the best buyer's market in the history of our country, if you're not getting offers, that's why. Just remember, I was the one that was honest with you. And if they assume and keep that listing as they start knocking pricing down, it's only going to hurt you. So let me come in at that point and I'll bring the listing back to market under my name. Just food for thought. If you do hire somebody else that's promising you something that I don't think is attainable, because people got to look at that statement of honesty and say, because here's what we're doing. We're planting a seed that if that happens in the future, which there's a good chance that it will, since you're not taking that listing, the only thing they remember is Stefan told me this. He told me this would happen. And so they're remembering that. Go ahead, Brian. So they're remembering that discussion that you had with them. And what they're telling themselves is because you future sold that potential consumer by taking it away, but stating when this happens, just know that I can come into the mix. They're already thinking about bringing you into the mix because you future sold that consumer. Are you following what I'm saying there? So now here's what happens. You come back And you automatically should get a price reduction because that should just be part of it. Now, when you go back there to massage that and say, look, I don't think we need to, like, because someone's already said, okay, Steph, how low do you want to go on this thing? Because they're nervous. They're like, shit, I started at 400. Is he going to tell me 350? The way you massage that is you say, look, I think the home sells for around here, but I do want to give us some breathing room. So we're going to start here. And there's a chance it could be here. And you're allowing them to breathe a little bit because you're not giving them as bad as news as they may have thought. So don't go in there guns a-blazing and just completely rock bottom this thing unless they're like in that big of a hurry. But you future sold that opportunity. Now, the flip side to the second part of this is when you are second from an initial listing and they still don't want to lower the price, we then are setting ourselves up for potential failure because we all know price sells. There's only so much a human being can do. Where we come into play is the negotiations. But if I don't have anything to negotiate, there's nothing I can do. And that's what I would always say. My job is to facilitate. That's my job. But if I can't get people in the door to even begin that process, then it's all for nothing. And all that stems with is price. And so I would ask the question to that seller, hey, over the past 60 days, you're considering changing agents, which is why I'm here. Over the past 60 days, how many people have been through your home and have you had any offers? And if they, that answer is really important because if they say, yes, I've had offers, we want to ask, what were those offers? Because if they're listed at 4 and they had a 390 offer and they rejected it over 10K, I'm not taking on that client because odds are I'm not getting 400 grand list price at a home that's been on the market for 45 days. And we have to explain that to the consumers too and say, look, we're already pretty much dead in the water. What I'm trying to do is salvage as much money for you as possible. That's my job. Where can I make sure that the leakage is as little as possible? And people are gonna be like, well, what do you mean? Well, we've been on the market a while. So my job right now is to get you at or near that best offer once again. And if I do have enough, the critical component, Mr. Jones, is if I can create traffic to create a fear of loss to potentially 2 or 3 buyers, I can drive up the price. So that's what I need to do. I need to stir this up to where I can drive enough traffic into your home to where I can potentially get a couple people competing so I can get you that price. If that does not happen, we're not getting list at this point, and you have to be able to understand that, and you have to be able to live with that, because if I can't do that, and I'm not promising you I can, I might be able to, but if I don't, 45 days on the market getting list price, my question to you is, if you're buying a home and you saw that that home has been on the market for a month and a half, would you give them full asking price or would you start to negotiate? And they would say, I'd probably negotiate. Exactly. And your home is not different. And so we just have to level set with those people, because taking a listing as the second agent with an unrealistic seller that doesn't want to lower the price, I've almost never taken those, because it always turns into a disaster. Because they're so hard-headed that if you can't see that your home hasn't sold in 60 days or 45 days and it's not priced, it's your realtor, we need to have a discussion. And let me tell you how I work and why you're hiring me. You're hiring me to facilitate, to negotiate, to get you the best price. But we also have to be realistic, because if I can't get people in the door, which is the first driving factor of selling a home, then all my talents are meaningless, because I have to have somebody to negotiate with. And people need to understand that. And so it's how you level set with them on that second agent, because most of the time you would think most sellers, most of the time, would say, I need a price reduction. And the ones that say that they don't and they blame it on their agent, we need to have an open, honest discussion with them, because that's where you could really fall into a trap of mental health, of working with somebody that's a complete jerk, that is grinding you. And that's why, for me, I was busy enough to where I could reject clients. I didn't care. On to the next one. I'll go get another listing, because I don't want to deal with that person in the future. I know you're going to, there were deals that I knew I could sell the home. I just didn't want to deal with that person. I got to a point in my career where I was making enough money to where I was like, yeah, I just don't like you in my mind. I just don't like you. And I know you're going to be a pain in the ass. And I know once I put it in contract, you're going to grind me out. I know you're going to be a dick during the inspection period. And I just don't want to deal with it. You know, so there does come a point to where, and I go back to this too. Look, you're hiring me because I'm the best of the best. Now, I don't say that being cocky. I say that because I sell more homes in this community than anybody else, or in this area than anybody else. That's why I'm always over here. Like, we can feed credibility within the pitch that we're having out there, right? But that's why you're hiring me. And I'm telling you that I can't do these things that you're asking for, but I can do these things. The question is, which route do you want to go? And a lot of people will listen to you and they will actually take your advice because you're taking it away. The minute I started taking listings away from somebody being able to hire me, I can't tell you how many I got. But I also got to put them in check from day one. That's just like, I would never answer my text messages right away. And the reason that is I don't want them to think that just because I answered you right away for the past week, that I'm always available right away. So I would pause on purpose with my response time to my sellers because I don't want them to think I'm at their disposal every second of the day. I'm busy too. And so there's just level setting that comes with that. But my point is, by me setting that tone right there at that listing appointment, sets the tone to put people that want to be in the driver's seat, that they have to be in the passenger seat. Because I'm the driver. I'm the one that you're hiring to do this job for you. So we're going to do it my way. Now, I'm open to doing things together, but you got to understand this is how I operate. So just controlling the contract, I always talk about you got to control the contract before you even get into that stage. But controlling the consumer is just important. Have you guys heard that story about the agent that took my hand away from shaking hands with this woman? It was her buyer. And yeah, like, dude, I controlled that sale from that second. I told that woman, I said, so the story goes real quick. Buyer's agent comes in with their buyer, second showing, I'm there. It's like a $3 million crib. The lady looks at me and she goes, talks about list price. I go, yes, and it's worth every penny. I've been slammed. We've been on for 8 days. She's like, we want it. So she shakes my hand, full price. Her agent grabs our hands and throws them off. And she goes, we do not have a deal here. And we both look at her. Now, this is her client and me. And we're like, excuse me? And she's like, let me talk to you. So she pulls her client outside, comes back in, and she's like, I'll get back with you later today. I go, actually, will you do me a favor? Will you call me when you get in the car? Because I knew I wanted to put this deal together, but I knew I didn't want to work with that type of woman. And I didn't want, what I wanted to do is I wanted to have it out with her right now, because I didn't want to have it out with her during the inspection period, because things can break at the inspection period. So I wanted to fight with her right then and there, get it over with. So she called me and I said, I don't know what you're doing. This is a $90,000 commission. John, don't you, I've been in the business 40 years, blah, blah, blah. And what I told her, David, if you remember the story, what I told her, I go, just so you know, we're going to fight right now. And she goes, excuse me? I completely foreshadowed our discussion. I said, we're going to fight right now, but it's going to be a good thing for the future. She goes, what are you talking about? I go, then I got into what she just did and why and everything else. And we had it out for about 10 minutes. But guess what? I got it over with and it was done. And we had the smoothest transaction because I controlled her. She didn't want to F with me. She didn't want to put her ego and her chest out anymore because she knew that she would be in a battle and she didn't want to be in a battle with me. So my point is, as much as it's important to control your client, it's also important to control the agents too. Not with ego, but just know when to have it out, know when not to, but also know when you're about to have it out. And is it worth it? Is it worth the headache of this client? And if you think you're going to be there, take care of that shit from the very beginning. Because if they don't like that, then they're not for you. But if you put them in check in the beginning in a very professional manner, you get to control the rest of that process from not only buy side, but from list side too. Clients need to know that you're the one driving the car. They're upfront with you, but they're not driving the car. And the more you do that, the easier, because we get to a point in our career, Like Steph, you're getting there. Brian, you're there. Sam, you know, I mean, I know you don't do a ton of like in the field shit, but like you're there when it comes to what you do in wholesaling. Like when we get to a point where my state of mind is way more important than dealing with some jerk. Like that 10 grand, 20 grand to me, I don't care. I have money in the bank. I'll move on to the next one. And when we get to these points in our career where we understand, I'd rather not worry about this person and have mental clarity than to even go down this path because the money isn't worth it to me. And you know what? That's confidence, because agents that don't have that confidence, they're afraid to say no. And the agents that are afraid to say no, those are the ones that their clients control the entire buyer process. They can never get a deal done because they always want to negotiate. They always want a deal. They always want a nickel and dime. They always want to be assholes during the inspection period. You know why? A lot of that times it's because the agent has no control. No control. You control your client from day one, they will listen to you. It goes back to offering. When agents sit there and say, do you like the home? Yeah, of course I love the home. You can tell I like the home. Why are you asking that stupid question? The response is, hey, I can tell you really like this one. But let me tell you what I like even more. I don't need to sell the home. I know you like it. I'm selling everything else around the house. I love the community. I love the fact it's on a cul-de-sac. I love the fact it's closer to work. I love the fact that kids are 5 minutes closer to school. I love this. I love that. I love the appreciation area. I love everything else. So the home sells itself. And when I go into that about making an offer, I don't even ask them. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the agent right now, and I'm going to see first if it's still available. Create this fear that it might not be. And then if it is, I'm going to let you know where we need to submit our offer at. So many agents are sitting there talking to their client. They're sitting saying, do you like it? Would you like to submit an offer? Yes. Where do you think we should offer? Well, I'm not really sure, and this and that, and I'll make a phone call. And they're like, well, we'd like to maybe come in a little bit lower. And then like, they just lost it right there because they allowed the client to even spit out a number. Your client should never spit out a number. I'm going to call you back and I'm going to tell you where we should offer on this property. Period. End of story. But they tee it up wrong from the very beginning. And that is why when you get confidence in what you do for a living, that's why the best of the best are always selling, because they're great at selling. They know, they're confident. And that's why the weak constantly get eaten up out there by consumers from the list side and the buy side. And the third leg, they get eaten up by agents too. So just have confidence. Don't be afraid to say no, but always give rationale and reasoning so you can still have that play to maybe be second, or if you are the second one coming into it, that we're putting them in the mindset of, well, wouldn't you negotiate a deal that was 60 days on the market or 45? Exactly. That's what everyone else is thinking too. My job is to try to make sure I mitigate any potential loss you would have had from listing it too high from the very beginning. And that's what I'm really good at. And then they're sitting there saying, okay, oh, I like him. I like that. Like if somebody told me that at my kitchen table, look, we're not getting list price. Let me tell you what. My job today is to come in and try to save you as much money by making the mistake of listing it up here. And I'm not sure why that agent told you that, but it was way too high from the very beginning. And they're like, yeah, no kidding, right? My job now is to come in and save the day with bringing back as much money into your pocket as I can by making the mistake of listing it too high from the beginning. That's what I do very well. If somebody told me that, where do I sign? Like, that's the best statement anybody could ever tell me. I'm here to save the day by trying to put as much money back in your pocket that you might potentially lose moving forward than anybody else, because we made a mistake here, clearly. Like instead of coming in, like every other agent comes in, they're like, yeah, it's a beautiful home. You know, I don't really think that it was listed so badly. You know, I maybe a little high, but you know, blah, blah, blah. Like there's no solution to that. There's no solution. What makes them different than the next guy? If you tell me that and you leave my house, I'm sitting there saying, that Stephen kid is insanely good at what he does. And then you get to sell it. But we got to say things differently. So anyway, there's two sides to that, but it's all confidence. It's all confidence.
How do you combat everyone's, oh, my Zestimate says this?
Yeah, well, you know what I always did? I said, the Zestimate on my house said it was X, and it was off by about 200 grand. I would always third party myself. You know, like, first of all, everybody knows, like, that's the only tool of appraisal that a consumer has. And if they know, let me ask you this question. Have they ever told you a Zestimate that was lower? No. They always tell you a Zestimate that's higher, right? Because if they think their home's 7, but their Zestimate says 6, they ain't telling you their Zestimate, are they? So, like, the only time I get someone's estimate is when their house is worth 7 and it says it's worth 8, because they're just throwing it out there as a hope. But to me, that's an easy rebuttal. It's, well, first and foremost, Zillow doesn't know anything about anybody's home when it comes to the inside of the home. They don't know if you have gold toilets, and they don't know if you got, you know, these cabinets and whatever. So just so you know, that's why you hired me, because a computer can't determine the value of your home and negotiate a home. That's what I do. And I'm telling you, we're right about right here. And you know what? We still got to show the facts. And the facts show that when we look at closings, because closings always trail 2-3 months behind, we still have to show them, look, let me show you as an example. This is this home. The good news is that I think you can do better than this home, and we're going to do better than this home. But I also want to show you this one that's listed, that's been on the market for 37 days. This is the reason they've been on the market for 37 days. Look at the comparison in price per square foot. They're way shooting too high. And this person's going to get buried because now they're going to have to deal with negotiating way lower than list. And they might, like, think about this. A lot of those people actually aren't sellers. The hope and a prayer people selling their home a lot of times are not sellers. If you get me this number, I'd sell my home. And they give me an unrealistic number. And what I tell them is, I'm not the agent for you. So you have those people out there as well. So don't just look at active listings and say, well, this house down the street from me is listed at 500. Yeah, but it hasn't sold. Well, I know, but I got granite countertops. Yeah, I know. I get that. Your home's awesome. I get it. Best home ever I've ever been in. But their home hasn't sold. But these are the ones that have sold. Because sometimes, I mean, especially in a market like this, when things are just crazy price, sometimes you're going to get those people that they truly just want to hope and a prayer, and you go on these listing appointments and you know they're just completely unrealistic. But you got to be smart enough to ask that question too. And the question you ask on that question is, you know, Brian, I got to ask you a serious question. Are you serious about selling your home? Yeah. Okay. Because I just want to make sure you're dead serious on selling your home, because if you're just hoping, then I'm telling you where you're at, it can't be done. And if it can be done, it's not anytime soon. But I also, you have to respect what I do for a living, right? Because I can't, first of all, I don't want to hurt our relationship if I can't sell it at the price. And that's always what happens. I don't want to go down that path with you. But I also, listing your home costs money, and it costs time and effort and phone calls constantly. And if you're not realistic, I just can't be the one for you. A lot of times as well, guys, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Like if I'm just straight like this, well, you know, let me tell you this and that, like, I don't like that discussion. It's too formal. The more that I'm chill and the more that I say things like, look, here's the deal. You have to understand where I'm coming from. Like this, that, and the other thing. You have to rationalize with me. When you say things, like how you say things gets a different reaction. That's why a lot of times these salespeople that aren't naturally gifted salespeople, they look robotic. They lose a lot of deals because they're saying the right thing, but they're saying it the wrong way. Like relationships are this whole business. And so that's what I always tell my agents. Just be cool. Because if you're just cool, people will want to work with you. But if you're not, and you're a stiff, and you're not saying things the right way, meaning the way that I express what I'm trying to tell you, hands off. Things like, look, I don't want to ruin a relationship. You got to respect that. I'd rather be second, come in and help you than go down this path right now, because I can't get you what you want. And any agent that says that they can, I'd love to know what magical rabbit they have that they're going to pull out of their hat, because that doesn't exist. So rationalizing, but saying it the right way is also critically important. It goes back to what I just said on the buy side. when I'm sitting there working with a buyer, in order to get that discussion to where I'm the one controlling that, I'm going to call you back and I'm going to tell you where to offer this and that. There's an art form to doing that. And that's what great salespeople have. They know in their mind where they need to get this person. I know right now you love this home. I now know that I need to build more credibility. I then need to get them in the mindset that we're going to make an offer on this home when I call you back. So I say that when I'm expressing what I'm going to do. And when I call you back, I'm going to let you know where we need to submit our offer if it is still available. I know that. I know I want to say that because I know when I call them back, they're expecting an offer when I tell them it's available. Everything I do is about the next step in the process, 2 and 3 steps ahead of where I am today. So that should just be our discussion points. Because when we talk about where we are now, it's already too late. We got to prep a buyer tour. For example, why do you think I always said, now of these 5 listings, which 2 do you think you're most interested in? And I made them tell me what they believe would be their top 2. And I did that because I got to say when I went into one of them that they really liked, and then we got to see which one they liked better. I got to turn around the discussion and say, you guys were right on this one. And because now they're happy, they're in the home and they're like, God, we thought this was going to be great. And then I get to turn them and be like, well, I'll tell you one thing. And they're like, what? You were right about this one. And they're like, aha, yeah, I found it, right? And so they're excited, but I get to say that. So many times they pick the one that they thought online is the one that they really want because you can see so much from pictures. But I said that because I have said that statement hundreds of times. Well, I'll tell you one thing. What's that? Because they're already excited. They're in the house. You were right about this one. And they're like, yeah. And then they get chills, and it's like, bang, I got a deal. Right now I got a deal. I knew it. And so you go into that. But my point is, guys, I set up that future discussion. It could have been a week down the road. I was setting up where I wanted to get to. Now, I didn't know which ones they were going to pick, but I knew out of the 5, I knew the 2 that they liked the most. And so if they picked one of those, I got to lead with that. That gets people excited, right? So again, it goes back to everything we're about to say should be teed up from a place prior to where we're at before. And if we do that, we're going to have much more success. The problem is agents don't do that. They're just constantly working in where they're at currently, not where they're going to be down the road. Think about how exciting that is. Because what consumers realize is, I'm sitting there, Steph's touring me a home. I told him which one I think is going to be my favorite. I'm in it and I love it. And then he just gives me another, hey, you did good here. Like, people love that stuff, right? Like, good job. You picked a good one here. And then I go into the other things because I know they love the home. But you know what else I like? That's my next line. But let me tell you what else I like. I did not realize this backyard was going to be as big as it is. I did not realize this was on a cul-de-sac. I don't know how I missed that, but that's awesome. I did not realize it was only 8 minutes to work. Like, all these things that are adding to more and more of them being like, well, go give me the house. Like, that's all I'm doing there. And now I get to tee up how I'm going to have you make your offer on the home by not even having you don't even open your mouth. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do next. I'm going to call you back, go have lunch. I'm going to let you know if it's available, when it's available. I'm going to tell you where we're going to submit our offer at. And then hopefully we can open escrow. Now, once we open escrow, and I'm talking about the inspection right here. The reason I'm talking about the inspection right here is I want to get past the offering part because I've already sold them on that. That's done. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Now I'm going to talk to you about the inspection. When we have our inspection on something, I'm placing them in the process. When we have our inspection on the home, we're going to make sure that the home doesn't have a lot of major issues. Now, I don't see many, but every home has its issues. The key component is we are not going to nickel and dime the seller, but anything major that may come up, we may want to request them to repair that. Why am I doing that now? Because I know there's going to be 30 fucking things wrong with that house. And I don't want them to ask for 30 fucking things on the house. I want them to ask for like 5 things on the house. But guess what? If I don't bring that up and they get an inspection report and I haven't prefaced that, they're going to be like, shit, my house is, I love this house until I saw there's 30 things wrong with it. Well, that's nothing. But I'm telling them before I even submit the offer, because I'm going to get this deal done. I know it's available. I already talked to the agent. I know it's available. I don't want them to know it's available. But I'm teeing up the inspection process because I know I'm going to get a deal done here. And if I keep them on pins and needles for a bit, I get to tell them, don't blow this deal, get this deal done. Now I may only have 1 counter instead of 6. But I'm telling them about the inspection right now because I'm going to be there. And when I get there, I want them to remember our discussion. It's very clear. You know what I'm saying, guys? Like, if you know where it's going, put them there. And that's what great salespeople do. And that's what you need to teach your team members to do. Do it this way. It might be uncomfortable for you because you're not used to it. But that's why role playing is so important. Every role play should have foreshadowing and expectations to it. Every one of them. Because that's all we do. All right, what else we got?
Well, one kind of thing that I was thinking about this more day on market, it's going to be better for our buyers anyways, right? And then if we have timid buyers, the one thing that I was kind of thinking, it's like, well, I mean, would you have rather gone up against 15, 20 offers, you know, a few months back, having to go 50 grand over list price, or do you want to offer on a house that has had, you know, 2 weeks on the market? This is the better strategy. So, you know, buyers shouldn't be scared now. They should be excited.
Well, what I would say is this, is that thank God rates are up a little bit. What do you mean, thank God rates are up a little bit? Because if rates weren't up, you wouldn't be able to buy this home. That's the only thing we need to say. Thank God interest rates are up like they are right now. Why? Because you would never be able to buy this home if there weren't, because there'd be 20 offers on it. And then they're like, good point. This house is going to continue to go up in value. You're paying a little bit more on your interest rate, but at least you get to own this home. Because 2 weeks ago, a month ago, I would not be able to sell you this house. Bang. That's it. Like, that's all I needed to know. Now, the seller side is, look, we can create fear in the sellers with DEFCON 5. Hey, I'm telling you, rates are really going up here. You may not get what you thought, and you may end up taking less because we're going to have a lot less buyer activity. So I'm telling you right now, don't screw around with this, because you could very easily, within 2 weeks, lose $20,000, $30,000. Like, let's not screw around here. Let's get this home sold, because I have no idea where the market goes in the next 6 months. But what I do know is that you need to sell this house.